Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto. Hope you're all doing great. Hope you're having a great week so far, and welcome to this new video right here on the crypto market. Wanted to start off with a bit of a fundamental overview, right? News, we got some economic data. What does that mean for the traditional financial markets? What's going on, and what type of effect does that have on the crypto? Then we'll take a look at Bitcoin, we'll take a look at Ethereum, we'll also take a look at XRP, kind of the majors, right? I also did a video on Solana this morning, so if you're interested in that, check that out. And then we'll talk about some altcoins specifically. Now, I have to say that most altcoins, as you can see right here, are very correlated to Bitcoin. There's obviously always coins that are doing their own thing and that are uncorrelated from Bitcoin. And we'll focus on some, or at least some altcoins that may be correlated to Bitcoin right now, but that can actually start to outperform a little bit later. But that's the end of the video. But that's at the end of the video. So first, let's talk about the markets. The U.S. market has just opened about 15 minutes ago. So I always make these videos after the open, right? So that we have a bit of an idea. We got some economic data. Economic data so far, though, I mean, you can see that corporate profits decreased a little bit less than expected. The GDP growth rate in the quarter to quarter was a little bit lower than expected. So you'd say, well, maybe that's bearish, but it's in the end, most of this economic data, without going into depth about what it all means, but it's quite interesting if you're interested in that. But without doing that, I mean, ultimately, what I always say, I mean, if you want to follow economic data, which I think you should, the best thing potentially to do is just to take a look at the markets, right? And at this point of time, the markets, if you take a look at the S&P 500, right? So US equities, that's doing fine. That's at the all-time high. And I think we actually have a solid chance to, potentially even get a breakout here. So that would be good news for crypto, because crypto, or at least Bitcoin, is actually to a certain extent correlated to how the general financial markets are doing. And then if you take a look at some other relevant fundamentals, you can see that gold is pulling back, the volatility index is pulling back. So that signals general lack of unrest or general stability in the world. I mean, I on the left, I have a feed with all sorts of data, all sorts of news. And every hour there's new data about these nuclear facilities in Iran, and Iran took out the uranium before they hit, or they didn't, and it's all unclear. And a lot is possible. I mean, I do agree with that. But ultimately, you should take a look at the markets, right? And even though I think the economic data was ultimately mixed, the economic data's the economic data, the economic numbers and the fundamentals we see are still bullish for crypto. Dollar strength index is dropping down. S&P 500 is going up, even though there's some gaps to the downside. So we could fill those first. Which you should be aware of, right? But still, I mean, that's not major. And then the Coinbase Bitcoin price is still trading at a high premium, especially compared to what it was last week. So fundamentals are good. Now, if we take a look at Bitcoin specifically, though, even though the fundamentals are good, I still do want to warn you for a pullback. And then the main reason for that is if we zoom out, Bitcoin is at a major resistance level right here. And I've said this in my last Bitcoin videos as well, but it's good to repeat that. Whenever we are at the top of resistance, the market always feels a little bit euphoric, which, I would say at least some traders are feeling kind of euphoric right now when talking about Bitcoin. On Twitter, on X, I already see the posts talking about new all-time highs, etc. But I don't see any reason right now, not in the volume, but also not in the fundamentals. Maybe you could argue that, equities going to new all-time highs, that's enough to also push up Bitcoin. But then I would expect more volume. And at this point of time, we don't have that. So no, I mean, at this point of time, I do think we had some major shorts being opened earlier this morning. Maybe they still get squeezed out, right? So that we actually get some sort of a move like this first. But I do think afterwards, especially also with the technical imbalances we have to the downside, I think we're going back down to the bottom of the range right here between 103.5 and 102.5. So that's generally what I expect from Bitcoin. Now, if we're talking about the fundamentals, again, briefly, I don't want to make this too boring. But right now the fundamentals are great, but we also have some deadlines for tariffs and trade deals at the beginning of July, which could again create some tension in the markets, and you should be aware of that as well. Those are my thoughts for Bitcoin. When we're talking a little bit more specifically about Ethereum, I don't think Ethereum looks great. The main level that we spoke about this morning is 2440. It seems at this point of time that we are failing to hold that. So, you know, even though Ethereum is at support, I think the only way Ethereum could actually recover from the pressure we see right now is if Bitcoin spikes up here. And it looks a little bit more likely to me right now that Ethereum is actually going to be unable to hold this reclaim that we had, and then it's going to drop back down into that imbalance we have down here. Similar to Bitcoin, we have some major imbalances lower. And XRP looks similar. XRP is also breaking down right here with a major imbalance to the downsides. Do I expect that imbalance to hold given the fundamentals? Yes, but we can still drop down a couple of percentage before filling the entire imbalance. And finding support. So be aware of that. Now, talking about some altcoins here, there's not a huge amount of altcoins that I think are interesting here. There's a bit of a manipulated coin that I think is interesting, with rare, right? So that's super rare. That's the name of the project. It's not actually super rare. But you can see that right here, volume has been very, very high, so that means it's interesting, but it's a bit of a scam coin, so be aware of that. I mean, keep a tab on it, but if you want to trade this, you're taking a major risk, just know that. And then outside of that, coins that I think are less risky, still, of course, risky, but less risky, actually look good, are coins like Aptos. I think Aptos has formed a nice bottom right here and a nice reclaim. Injective as well. And then outside of that, well, a lot of coins actually look like this, right? So they actually broke down below balance, and they've reclaimed and left an imbalance while reclaiming. And now they're trying to, you know, they're filling that imbalance before going up higher. But Injective, Aptos, Chainlink, I think those look quite interesting, and maybe also Grass. But Grass, it's a little bit early in its recovery to say that this is a real recovery or just a short-term, you know, mean reversion. Those are my thoughts. I think that's what you need to know regarding the markets for right now. So we spoke about the fundamentals, not only today but also for the beginning of July. We spoke about Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, altcoins. That's all you need to know. Take care, you know, be ready of this pullback. I mean, Thursday has been the day for pullbacks in the last month, which is another thing to know, as you can see down here. So be aware of that, but that's all you need to know for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in my next videos, and bye.